What's going on, guys? So, this is episode 13 of Ignorant Wisdom. Let's see what we got to work with today. So, this one's going to be called Like Father, Like Son. I'm going to do a little bit of comparing and contrasting of four, major figures in the Bible. Got David and Solomon, that father and son duo, as well as Abraham and Isaac. So now we got to see who's going first. What that boy JFK decide. All right, we going hits. We're going with David and Solomon. Now, let's see. We have the wisdom here. The Solomon was one of the wisest men in the Bible. I'll give you some background to this. Because Solomon asked for wisdom and discernment from God. So 1 Kings 3. They never want to go to King James, man. All right, verse 1. And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David until he had made an end of building his own house, and the house of the Lord and the wall of Jerusalem round about. Only the people sacrificed in high places, because there was no house built unto the name of the Lord until those days. And Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt incense in high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon offer upon that altar. And the king went to Gibeon. In Gibeon the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. And God said, Ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said, Thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said unto him, Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, longevity, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. And if thou wilt walk in my ways, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days. And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem, and stood before the ark of the covenant, and offered up burnt offerings, and offered peace offerings, and made a feast to all his servants. Then came there two women that were harlots unto the king, and stood before him. Now you're about to see the discernment in action, and we'll jump to something else. And the one woman said, O my Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the third day, after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also. And we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we two in the house. So it's just them. And this woman's child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me, while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. So they trying to play switcheroo. And now you're about to see Solomon's, wisdom and discernment and judgment take place right here already. And when I rose in the morning to give my child suck, to feed the child, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. Then said the king, The one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other saith, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. And the king said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one, and half to the other. Then spake the woman whose the living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And they say that your gut and your stomach is one of the closest places, maybe even to hold your soul. That's why you say, oh man, I got a gut feeling. So for her bowels yearned upon her son, and she said, O my Lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. And you know that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. So that's just touching on the wisdom. Now, you heard about the wealth and the longevity that he has. I'll talk about his 700 wives and the 300 concubines. So they both had a level of adultery on them. Now, where this ties into David with this adultery is David was daring enough and ridiculous enough to have 4 wives and then want to take another man's wife. And then once he goes to take that man's wife, he takes her and lays with her. He goes ahead and takes her husband and puts him in the front line of the army as like cannon fodder for him to die so that he can go ahead and do this sneakily and have that man's wife. So you have them for lust, wealth, wisdom, adultery. They're both kings. And one of the great parts of David is his battle conquest and, the murder that he takes part in. The story of David and Goliath. I might have covered that before already. So you have his spoils of war and his valor, his conquests. He was a warrior and he wrote Psalms. Solomon wrote Proverbs, and then it's been rumored that he wrote Ecclesiastes, because he was given the wisdom. So when you look at Proverbs, that's the book of wisdom. It comes from King Solomon. Now, going back to what was said here, there's a certain thing where you can do good in the sight of the Lord, where God looks at you and deems you to be, one of his loyal followers, and then he'll give you things. That's important. Really, it's important here because it says that, I wrote down that David had the perfect heart according to God, like with how he dealt with God. But Solomon had the imperfect heart towards the Lord God. Now, let's get to this Bathsheba part with Uriah. So this is 2 Samuel 11, 1 to 12. Second Samuel 11. Second Samuel 11:1, and it came to pass after the year was expired at the time when kings go forth to battle that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. And it came to pass in the eveningtide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. What did Jesus say? If your eyes or your hands force you to commit a sin, cut off that hand, pluck out that eye. But this is that's so far later on down the line. And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers and took her. And she came in unto him, and he lay with her. For she was purified from her uncleanness. And she returned unto her home. And the woman conceived and sent and told David and said, I am with child. And David said to Joab, saying, Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah the Hittite to David. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, Go down to thy house, and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, Camest thou not from thy journey? Why then didst thou not go down unto thine house? And Uriah said unto David, The ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into mine house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As thou livest and as thy soul liveth, I will not do this thing. And David said to Uriah, Tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and tomorrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord. but went not down to his house. And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter, saying, Set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die. And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah unto a place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab, and there fell some of the people of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, When thou hast made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, and if so be that the king's wrath arise, and he say unto thee, Wherefore approach ye so nigh unto the city, when ye did fight? Knew ye not that they would shoot from the wall? Who smote Abimelech, the son of Jerubbesheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of a millstone upon him from the wall, that he died in Thebez? Why went ye nigh the wall? Then say thou, Thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So the messenger went and came and showed David all that Joab had sent for. And the messenger said unto David, Surely the men prevailed against us, and came out unto us into the field, and we were upon them even unto the entering of the gate. And the shooters shot from off the wall upon thy servants, and some of the king's servants be dead, and thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So he set this man up to die, like I prefaced already, and took his woman. So got that there. Covered the battle, the conquest. We talked about David and Goliath, which I covered that before. That wasn't really going to play into this theme of this episode. Now, I'm going to talk about how God dealt with David and how God dealt with Solomon for two things that they did wrong. When David does this, maybe that was in my phone there. Because after David does that, there's wars in his kingdom until the time he dies. Okay, the Lord. Let's get to verse 27 of 2 Samuel 11. And when the morning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house. We're talking about Bathsheba. And she became his wife and bare him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. And the Lord sent, because this is 2 Samuel 12 now. And the Lord sent Nathan unto David. And he came unto him and said unto him, There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up. And it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd, to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb, and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said to Nathan, As the Lord liveth, the man that hath done this thing shall surely die. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said to David, Thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house, and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord, to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of the sun, for all to see. For thou didst it secretly, but I would do this thing before all Israel, and before the sun, because what's done in the dark will come to the light. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, The Lord also hath put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bore unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted, and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose, and went to him to raise him up from the earth. But he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the seventh day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him, that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spoke unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself, if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. Then David arose from the earth, and washed and anointed himself, and changed his apparel, and came into the house of the Lord, and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her. And she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon. And the Lord loved him. And he said, and he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he called his name Jedediah, because of the Lord. Now, punished with war, sent the husband to die. That's all good. Let's finish this off talking about Solomon and him bowing down to these other gods of these 1,000 women he had, his 700 wives and 300 concubines. And once he, betrays God, essentially, he's going to feel a separation from God. And the separation from God is something that happens really only in hell. That's the only place you'll be where you can be separate from God, because God is not in hell. So he's going to feel that separation as he's walking in his days in the Lord. So you'll see. Where is that scripture? It's 1 Kings 11. First Kings 11. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart from the Lord. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, the lesser gods, not the Most High God. And his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Wow, man, see? And I'll even give you guys this look right quick. In my notes, I said an imperfect heart according to God. Yeah. So, it's pretty good, pretty good. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, or Ashtaroth, which is a supreme demon, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Shamash, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And Molech, I believe, or Moloch, it depends on who you have pronouncing it. Isn't that the owl? Oh no, the bull. Because no, the owl is on Bohemian Grove. So here's another bull type god with horns, similar to what Baal and all those people were trying to push. Which is where I really want to, I believe that's where they got BS from, bull so-and-so. You know, these people worshiping bulls and the golden calves. You know, just idolatry. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord, God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. So remember that God blessed him with wisdom and discernment, and then he gave him the other things, longevity, riches, and honor. So he's about to forsake all that. And he commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. He didn't obey the commandment from the Lord. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, For as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake which I have chosen. And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, stirred up a devil, Hadad the Edomite. He was one of the king's seed in Edom. For it came to pass when David was in Edom, and Joab, the captain of the host, was gone up to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom. For 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel, until he had cut off every male in Edom. That Hadad fled, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt, Hadad being yet a little child. So, I'll wrap this up here. It's almost getting to my parts with Elijah now. Okay, we'll go down here to 1 Kings 11, verse 31. And we'll finish this out, and this video will be over. And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. Because they that have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Shamash, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways, to do that which is right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Howbeit I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son I will give 1 tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will build thee and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. And I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. And Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. And the rest of the acts of Solomon, and all that he did, and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? And the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. Where is that? I like it. Now I'll come back in probably like 20 minutes and do part 2 of this, so I can talk about Abraham and Isaac. Let it breathe.